Alright, here's your guys' notes on factored form. Okay, so I separated you guys into 3 different Khan Academy assignments. So like this one will help, zero product rule will help you guys with the first one. This will help you guys with the second Khan Academy. This one will help you guys with your third. And then your guys' last one is kind of like a quiz. So it's gonna be like a combination of all of it, okay? So we're going to begin with zero product rule, okay? So if you guys forgot, zero product rule states if A times B is equal to 0, either A or B or both must be 0. So when you guys look at these examples, it's pretty much saying in order for this or this to equal to 0, either this, which is your A, or this, which is your B, must equal to 0, right? Because when you guys look at this, either A or B or both have to equal to 0 in order for that whole equation to equal to 0. So what you have to do is, well, a 2x minus 1, this has to be 0, or this x plus 4 has to equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we're just going to solve for both of them equaling to 0. And then we just solve. So this allows you guys to find your zeros, roots, or x-intercepts of what they're asking you. Add 1 to both sides, divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to a half. Or over here, you guys subtract 4 to both sides, and x is going to equal to negative 4. So 1/2 or negative 4, you guys, will make these two become 0. Okay, so if we did example 2, remember either this has to equal to 0 or this has to equal to 0 in order for this whole thing to equal to 0. So negative 5x plus 4 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. So for this one, subtract 4 to both sides, and then divide both sides by negative 5. X is equal to 4/5. This one over here, add 3 to both sides, or x is equal to 3. So 4/5 or 3, you guys, will make our whole equation become 0. So that's your guys' like first one. Okay, now we're going to transition over here, and we're going to read this, okay? So this is when you guys have to graph in factored form, okay? And if you guys forgot what, and this kind of froze on me, if you guys forgot what factored form is, this is what it is. Remember, f of x is equal to a out of x minus r1, x minus r2. That's what your guys' factored form looks like for quadratics, okay? So, step 1. Find zeros, roots, x-intercepts of the equation using the zero product rule. So what we're going to do, you guys, is we're going to go to here. Step 1 is to just use the zero product rule to find your zeros, roots, or x-intercepts. So when we get to here, right? Well, okay, first, let's just read it all. This one, you have to use that equation in order to find the x-coordinate of the vertex. So when you guys graph, you have to find your 2 zeros, and you gotta find your x-intercept. And these are the steps on how to do it. So this, guys, will give you your guys' x-coordinate of your vertex. Once you have your x value, you plug that into the original in order to find your guys' y value of the vertex. And then you will have your vertex, and then you just plot your vertex and 1, 0 for your guys' graph. So, for example, let's look at example 3 and just follow the steps, right? So step 1 says we gotta find our zeros. So in order to find your guys' zeros, you have to use the zero product rule. So we're going to set this equal to 0 of this, right? Now remember, when you guys do this, either this must equal to 0 or this must equal to 0 in order to find your zeros of your equation. So x minus 1 is equal to 0 or x minus 9 is equal to 0. Add 1, add 1, add 9, add 9. And that's going to be your guys' zeros. Okay, so that's your guys' zeros, which is going to be our R1 and R2. Now look at step 2, right? Now we have to use our zeros or our roots or x-intercepts in order to find the x value of our vertex. So step 2, x is going to equal to, oh, and by the way, you guys, as coordinates, it looks like this: 1, 0, and 9, 0. So step 2, x is going to equal to r1 is 1, r2 is 9, all of that over 2, and that is equal to 10 over 2, which is 5. Okay, so that's step 2. Now in step 3, we have to plug this value into the original. We have to plug it into the original. So y is going to equal to 5 over 16, 5 minus 1, and 5 minus 9. This is going to equal to 5 over 16, 4, and negative 4, which is 5 over 16 times negative 16, which is simply just negative 5. So then we have our vertex finally of 4, negative 5. And then you guys, all you have to do is just graph the vertex. And if you graph one of these, you'll notice that your graph will automatically gravitate towards the other one as well. Okay, let's do example 4. Okay, step 1, right? Use your guys' notes, right? Step 1 is to find your guys' zeros, roots or x-intercept. So use your zero product rule, set this equal to 0. So remember, either this has to equal to 0 or this has to equal to 0, right? So x plus 3 is equal to 0 or x plus 7 is equal to 0. Subtract 3 to both sides, x equals negative 3, or subtract 7 from both sides, x is equal to negative 7. So again, these are your guys' 0 / x-intercepts, that's roots. So let's write these as coordinates. And now let's find your guys' vertex. So step 2, right? X is equal to r1 plus r2 all over 2. So r1 is negative 3, r2 is negative 7 over 2, negative 10 over 2, which is negative 5. Step 3, plug this into the original in order to find your guys' y coordinate. So y is equal to negative 3/4, negative 5, because we're substituting this into both x's, right? Plus 3, negative 5 plus 7. This is going to equal to negative 3/4, negative 2, and 2. Which is equal to negative 3/4 and negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3/4, you guys, is a positive 3. So your guys' vertex is going to be negative 5, 3. So plot this and plot one of these two, and that will give you guys your guys' graph. Okay, last one, and this is going to be quadratic word problems, okay? So, they're going to ask you guys different segments of these types of questions, and you guys are going to have to be able to understand how to go about it, alright? So, let's begin. An object is launched from a platform, okay? Its height in meters, x seconds after the launch is modeled by that equation, okay? So now they tell us we have to use this information in order to ask these problems, okay? So let's look at the first one. Okay, what is the height of the object at the time of the launch? Alright, so notice what they're asking you guys first, right? They're asking you guys the height of it, correct? Well, the height of it is this. So that means this is what you guys are solving for this first one, okay? Then it says, what is the height of the object at the time of the launch? Well, this is what you guys have to critically think and ask yourself the question. Well, what is the amount of seconds when it's about to launch, right? So some of you are figuring it out that at the time of the launch is when time is 0. So essentially, you guys, all you have to do is just notice that at the time of the launch, that's at 0 seconds. So that means we need to substitute 0 in for our x's in order to find our height. So h of 0, because we're going to plug in 0 into our equation, right? Because that's when the time of the launch is at 0 seconds, equals -5, 0 plus 1, and 0 minus 9. And we solve. -5 times 1 times -9, which is equal to 45. So, what is the height of the object at the time of the launch? About 45 meters. Okay, so the object on the platform at 0 seconds, you guys, is at 45 meters above the ground. Okay, this one. How many seconds after launch will the object hit the ground? Okay, so we have to think about this, right? How many seconds? They are telling you guys to solve for x. We need to solve for x. That's our unknown, because that's x represents seconds, right? So it says how many seconds after the launch will the object hit the ground? Well, when it hits the ground, you guys, what is the height of the object when it hits the ground? That's when your guys' y value is 0, right? Because ground level, you guys, is a height of 0. So we have to plug in 0 in for our h of x. This is also mean, these two mean the same thing. Y is equal to 0 and h of x is equal to 0. So using your equation, set h of x equal to 0, and now we can solve for our x. And this is using your guys' 0 product rule. So either x plus 1 has to equal to 0, or x minus 9 has to equal to 0. X equals -1, or x is equal to 9. Now, in this problem situation, you guys, can you have -1 seconds? How many seconds after launch will the object hit the ground? Can you say that after -1 seconds, the object will hit the ground? No. So in this case, it will only be this one. That makes the most realistic sense, right? Okay. This one right here. How many seconds will the object reach its maximum height? Anytime you guys see maximum or minimum heights, that automatically means you should start thinking about your vertex. So it says how many seconds will the object reach its maximum height? How many seconds aren't you guys solving for your x variable, right? So that means we need to find your x value of your vertex. And you guys know that it's this, right? X is equal to R1 plus R2 all over 2. Our R1 is -1, remember? And our R2 is 9 all over 2, which is equal to 8 over 2, which is equal to 4. So this x is the x value for the vertex, and that is what we needed. So it's going to be 4 seconds to reach its maximum height. And then the last step, you guys, is what is the maximum height that the object will reach? Well, in order to get the maximum height, we need to find our vertex and then plug it into the original to get your guys' y value. So we're going to use our original equation, but we're going to substitute our x value of 4 into the original to get our y value of the vertex. So h of 4 is equal to -5, 4 plus 1, 4 minus 9 is equal to -5 times 5 times -5, and this is going to equal, you guys, 125 meters. So just to recap, the first one, what is the height of the object at the time? That's when x, I'll do a different color. This is when you set x is equal to 0, and then you solve. How many seconds after the launch will the object hit the ground? When it hits the ground, you guys, this is when your y is equal to 0, or it's when your function is equal to 0. The next one, it says how many seconds will the object reach its maximum height? This is where you guys find your vertex, and you only find your guys' x coordinate. And then this one, you guys, what is the maximum height of the object? This is when you find your y value of your vertex. Okay, so hopefully this, guys, it helps you. Again, just get these notes down, and then the Khan Academy assignment will be due tomorrow. So you guys have 2 days to work on it, okay? Good luck, everyone.